Welcome everyone to another episode of the Overtraining podcast. We're actually going to be switching it up a bit today, and instead of talking about my training, we are going to be talking about the training of the one and only Sam Askey-Doran. Is that correct, Sam? Did I pronounce that right?
Almost Sam Askey-Doran. So it's
Doran.
just pretty at the end.
Well, welcome, Sam. I'm actually going to have him do a little bit of an introduction as to who he is and why I decided to bring him on the podcast. And then we're going to get into it. We have a lot to chat about today. And this podcast has been in the making for quite some time because he's from Australia and it's hard to coordinate, but we finally got him on. So, Sam, yeah, the floor is yours.
Sweet. Yeah, as Parker said, this has been a long time in the making with the whole time difference thing. So we both met in Kona in Hawaii at the World Championships, and it's been a whole array of months since then. So it's taken a while. But yeah, Sam Askey-Doran, Kona swim course record holder. Went and raced my second Ironman in Hawaii and got the swim course record, and being involved with Cam Wurf quite a lot as well, and having a whole different training partners. I think yeah, it's one of the reasons why Parker's so keen to get me on.
No, definitely. And yeah, SM said we ran into each other quite literally on at Kona. We lined up together at the swim course, and
Yes.
then I didn't see him again until about mile 5 of the run. Because because you're how old are you? 21?
Yeah, 21.
And what did you swim at Kona?
45, 43.
45, 43 in non-wetsuit swim. And if I remember correctly, because I remember talking to you, you said you didn't feel too good about the swim either. You said you're a little tight.
Yeah, that whole week, so flying in on a Saturday, I just got real bogged down. So I was pretty crook up until about Thursday. Came right on Friday, and Saturday I was feeling heavy. And then the other thing as well is I'm like 90% certain that swimming Kona is actually long.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm like 90% sure that the swimming Kona is actually 3.9, not 3.8. So that's another thing to take into account.
And now you don't swim with a watch though, do you? So you can't say for sure.
No,
Because you're a real
no,
swimmer, so no watch, right?
yeah, no watch. Yeah, I just can't wear a watch when I swim. It's unnatural to me. We we did a 5K time trial once in the short course pool, so a 25-meter pool. Um, and I wore a watch for that simply because there's no way I was going to count in a 25-meter pool for 200 laps. And that thing drove me crazy. It was insane. I hated wearing a watch.
Have you ever tried swimming with form goggles?
No, I haven't. One of my so in March had some guys come down. Luke William, so he went to the Olympics in Paris this year for triathlon, and Jack Crone, so one of his training partners, they came down, did some training with me before going up to Devonport to race in the Continental Cup. And Jack had the form goggles. I had a quick look at them. I think the idea behind them is really, really good. Personally, I probably couldn't deal with having something actually in my goggles. I'd get really distracted, but I can see how they're actually a really, really good training tool.
I'm a big fan of that. I wear them pretty much for every swim except for open water swims.
Yeah.
The biggest reason is honestly because, well, two reasons. I like seeing my stroke rate and distance per stroke. I find that to help a lot. And
Yep.
then also counting the laps. That's the biggest thing. And then so I don't have to press the watch underwater because that I do think that messes up the form a bit. And having splits every 25, just because
Yes.
not being a young swimmer or just starting swimming relatively a few years ago, I don't have that same feel for how fast or slow I'm swimming quite yet, like you
Yeah.
do. So that definitely does help a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But before you weren't actually a swimmer at from the get-go, correct? Were you dabbled in some sailing, is that correct?
Yeah, so when I was really young, Dad took me into sailing. So we spent a lot of time at the Austin's Ferry Yacht Club, just down the road from where I live. Um, Sailing in the Sabos, there's like really small, boxy sort of boats, one sail. did some racing in the Sabos, and then went into the mirror class. So they've got like a bright red sail, two-handed boat. That was all the way up until probably grade 4. So I'm trying to think, probably up until about 9 or 10. And then that's when I transitioned more into swimming. Dad was like, well, if you want to learn how to sail properly and sail in stronger winds, you have to learn how to swim. And I was like, no, I don't want to swim. Swimming sucks. um, and then, yeah, I kind of got in and fortunately found a spot where my cousin was swimming. And essentially I just took into whatever she was doing and decided that, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I just got faster than my cousin for whatever reason. And then when I got faster, I was like, well, I might as well just pick up the next person. So that's kind of how it all transitioned. And then in grade 7, so I would have been 13, went back into sailing, really enjoyed it, went to nationals for teams racing for sailing. So it's like 3 boats per team. And you've got to try and finish as fast as possible, finish the race as fast as possible, but make the other team finish it as slow as possible. So it's kind of a
Wow,
weird,
that's weird. So is
yeah,
it the time difference between the first and or like you and the other boats that counts, or how do they
yeah.
count
So it's
for
based
that?
off your finishing position. So the team with the least points win. If you get first, it's 1 point. Second, it's 2 points. Third is 3 points. So you've got to make sure that your boats finish as far in front as possible, or as far up the pecking order as possible. But you've also got to find a way to make the other boats end up down the bottom. And because there's 3 of you, one person can just go for it. Someone else can circle back and try and slow down another boat. Yeah, it gets pretty hectic.
So then is it a series of races?
Yeah, so you might have, say, like a tournament sort of thing. You might do race this team, and then you race another team, and then you get into finals. So you do 3 races against the same team, and then into the major final, you might do 3 or 5 races against the same team, and it's best of 5 sort of thing.
Oh, so if you have 3 boats and the other team has 3 boats, then you want all of your boats to finish at the top and the other 3 boats to finish at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay. And I thought like all 3 of your boats were scored as one and all 3 of the other boats are scored as another, but it's separate.
nah,
Oh
yeah,
wow. So that's super interesting. Oh wow. That's
yeah.
almost I never because I knew sailing was a sport, but I never looked into it and never knew how it was scored and whatnot.
Mm,
That is interesting, huh? So
yeah.
I guess I don't know. What was your favorite part about the sailing? Was it, trying to go fast, trying to go, slowing the other teams down? And how would you slow other teams? Because I assume you can't like point to them. Like how do you slow them
Yeah.
down?
So my favorite part was definitely when the wind started getting quite strong. Even going out on the big keelboat racing, so the boats that have got the weight at the bottom, so then they can't capsize. I always enjoyed when the weather was pretty hairy and pretty strong, because it's just a whole lot of fun. Uh, and then yeah, so in terms of slowing other boats down, there's a whole sort of rule. So who has right of way? So say 2 boats are intersecting, the guys on starboard tack. So when the wind's coming onto the right of the boat, they have right of way. So the person coming this way has to move. Now, you might be able to sit on top of them, block the wind going into their sail. There's a whole bunch of different rules that you can try and imply to give them a penalty.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now moving back or going back to swimming. So you started swimming and you said you weren't the biggest fan of it. And was it the fact, like you said, trying to keep up with your cousins? Was that kind of what motivated you to keep doing it or trying to beat your cousins?
Yeah. I'm actually not entirely sure now, or not sure anymore, what I hated so much about swimming, because I'm kind of like, oh, swimming's great.
Was it the
But
cold water? I know that's what I
yeah,
hated about it first.
yeah, that's another one, cold water. But yeah, I just hated swimming when I was younger. I didn't want to get in the pool. It was always a struggle to get me out of the car. My mum would be parked in the parking lot when I was young, and I'd be crying in the back seat and screaming, I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go. Mum's on the phone to dad. She's like, she's not getting out of the car. What do I do? So yeah, it was always a bit hectic, but I think I found comfort in having my cousin there to help me get into the water.
Uh-huh.
And after that, once I started getting comfortable in the pool, and I gave myself a purpose to be there, it's kind of just everything took off.
And now when did you, because you primarily focus in open water or longer swimming, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, how did that transition occur? When did that occur? And what made you decide to start doing open water instead of just
Yeah.
swimming in the pool?
Yeah. So my first medal in Tasmanian state championships was actually in 100 fly.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so I was 11, got my first bronze medal in the 100 meters fly, and from then on, I decided I was going to be a butterflyer. I was like, yep, 100 fly, 200 fly, nothing else. Uh, I did a year of that, found that butterfly was kind of not as fun as I thought it would be. Uh,
Uh,
so to about 12, and I was like, yep, cool, I'll do 100, 200 freestyle. Um, so that was a pretty big block there. And then I think at about 14 or 15, someone gave me a wetsuit. Someone just like they owned a store and had a spare wetsuit that they couldn't get rid of, so they just handed it off to me. I looked at it and I was like, I'm not going to wear this. I'm not going in the water. There's sharks out there. I'm not going in the water. Um,
and you're not lying. Are there really sharks like like where you're swimming?
um, there has been sightings occasionally, but it's not like shark infested waters. If you went down to Port Arthur, that's probably where the sharks are. So it's like probably a 2 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive. There actually used to be an open water race down there,
Oh,
um, and I'm not sure, you're probably not aware, but Port Arthur is like where they had all these convicts. So they flew the well, not flew, they sailed the convicts in from England, and essentially Port Arthur was like a big prison. So they've got all that, and then convicts being convicts, there's all these ghost stories and everything, and people being murdered and whatnot. And so there's like these massive ghost tours in Port Arthur, and then if you take like a 10-minute boat ride out, there's like Isle of the Dead, where it's just this big cemetery island for all the convicts that had stuff go wrong. And essentially, we did a lap around that island. It
oh,
was
wow.
freakiest swim I've ever done. I'm never going back.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Oh, oh.
yeah. So someone gave me a wetsuit, and I said I'm never doing this. And then probably 6 months later, one of the guys, Michael Bolt, so he's actually a professional triathlon now, living in Brisbane. He was like, right, we'll get you swimming, we'll get you in the open water series down here. So yeah, around about 15, I did my first open water race and decided, oh, cool, this is quite fun. I'll start targeting open water in 1,500 meters.
Huh. Now, kind of going off on that. So, I mean, open water is definitely, it's almost, I kind of compare it to, for running, open water is like trail running, whereas swimming in a pool is like running on a track. It's
Yeah.
almost a pretty much a different sport. So kind of what's been like the hardest transition, I guess, to make from pool swimming to open water? And you mentioned you've been doing some open water races. What has been kind of like your favorite race to do open water that you've done?
Mm, yeah. So transitioning to open water and triathlon, not triathlon, swimming to open water, I actually didn't have many issues at all. Coming from having that sailing background, I think actually helped quite a lot going into open water because I knew how to find where the fast water was, knew how to move around the water, knew how to read the currents, knew how to read the wind. And so picking the fastest line was always one of my skills. So I think there's the Trent Derwent race, which is actually it's technically from one side of the Derwent River to the other. It's 1,500 meters on the dot. A lot of people just go straight from one side to the other, but there's actually a small current that pulls around in like a U shape. So the fastest line is actually to swim 1,600 meters. You get it done like 30 seconds quicker. And I think I've won that race now 5 times in a row. So yeah, I think going from swimming to open water, I never really had any issues. It was just a matter of dealing with not having any tumble turns. And then, yeah, so favorite race, there's quite a lot of local races that are actually really good. Like the the Boat Harbour swim. So Boat Harbour is a really nice like beach on the northwest coast of Tasmania. Cold water, but the water's like crystal clear. You can like you'd be swimming out, I don't know, 600 meters from shore, and you can just look down and see all the sand, everything going on. It's great. The beach there is like just pearly white. It's insane. It's probably one of my favorite swims for sure. Although there is did have open water nationals. So last 2 years being in Busselton, where I raced the 10K. And aside from jellyfish, there, the swims there is actually pretty good. So you actually follow the same course through the jetty as the Busselton Ironman.
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
is 10K the longest swim you've done?
In open water, yes. In the pool, I've done a 20K swim. I did 200 100s on 115.
We're gonna be talking about that coming guys. That's one of my questions, definitely up here.
Yeah.
What's the coldest water you swam in? Open water.
Being Tasmanian, I shouldn't be as soft as I am, but when it comes to cold water, I'm really soft. So I think the coldest I've swam in is like 11 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that translates to Fahrenheit. But
Around 40. Hey Siri, what's 11 Celsius? 51. Okay, so that's pretty cold. That's chilly.
Yeah, that's probably the coldest I've been in and the coldest I'll ever go.
Yeah, I did an Ironman Arizona, and I think that was around 58, 59. And
Yeah.
yeah, I liked Ironman Arizona, but I don't think I could do it again just because that's just I come out of the water and my hands are like it takes the first half the bike to even like feel your
Yeah.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty cold. Like when it does get cold, my teeth start to hurt. So my face goes
Uh-huh.
numb, my teeth hurt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's how I know it's cold because my teeth start hurting.
No, no, for sure. Yeah. No, luckily, kind of moving on to Kona now. Luckily Kona wasn't nearly as cold, but we had some jellyfish to deal with, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Well, I didn't actually. I think you cleared the way for all of us, but how did you deal with the jellyfish, and were there any other challenges that kind of came up during the swim? I know you I assume you had in your mind that you wanted to break the record, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So we start off with the jellyfish. I don't know, swimming in Busselton where there's a lot of jellyfish. So we have in Busselton, there's the southwestern stingers, which through January are pretty hectic there. They're basically a little cousin to the box jellyfish. And so my first year there, I got stung probably like 12 times through the first go at my 10K. And so that was like, over the nose, forehead, all down the shoulders, because you're wearing like a full body suit, similar to a swim skin.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and they when they sting, you just blow up in welts. It's terrible. And
That's
then,
horrible.
yeah, in 2024, it wasn't so bad. I think I got two stings, but we were like lathered up. So we had like body glide, had
Yep.
zinc cream sunscreen, and then pure lanolin or wool fat over the top of that. So that pretty much provides a bit of warmth with the wool fat and then an extra layer to stop the jellyfish from latching on. So then, yeah, going into Kona, the jellyfish weren't actually as bad. um,
Yeah,
they're,
I heard they were more kind of annoying and not necessarily too painful from others that got stung.
yes, they were certainly annoying. It was one of those ones. It just feels like you've touched a hot kettle,
Uh-huh.
um, and so it just kind of burns about 3 minutes and then it's gone. But the problem is, I still got about 10 or 11 stings. So by that stage, I was just pretty frustrated with what was going on. I've actually still got a scar. You probably can't see it.
Oh
It
wow.
was like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like a U shape there from one of the stings in Kona. I got all down my forearm, both sides. Got one like across my nose and down my cheek, and then like a couple on my knees, and then a couple like under my lats as well. So yeah, that's why I lost so much time in transition one. Everyone's like, "Oh, he must have been pretty tired," but I was literally arms spread out like that in T1 getting medical help, the med tent. for the stings, because there's no way I was going to go for a full Ironman with those. But yeah, and then yes, I did have the course record in mind. That was actually Worth his idea. So he came down and trained with us in January last year, which was really good. And we were out for a ride, like a 3-4 hour ride, and essentially he was like, "Oh, maybe you're not suited to the half. Maybe you're suited to the full. I think you should go and race Ironman Cairns and go to Kona." And I was like, "Oh, great! I've never done a long course triathlon before, and you want me to go to Kona? This would be great." So yeah, that was kind of the whole idea, is that I go to Kona while I'm still relatively quick at swimming and trying to take the swim course record.
And was that what drew you to triathlon? Was that what decided to make you do triathlon, or because you said you were on a ride with Cam when he said that, or how did you even
Yeah,
from just open water swimming to suddenly you're biking with Cam Wurf?
yeah. So 2023, it all kind of started in 2023.
Uh-huh.
So I we had a brand new half Ironman that came about in our city in Tasmania, in Hobart. And I really wanted to swim there because I knew some guys were coming down, like Josh Amberger was coming down. Matt Burton was there. Jake Birtwistle was racing. That was his first half Ironman. There were some really good guys, and I knew that I wanted to be part of a team. So I got together a really fast runner, Nick Earl. So he runs like a 2:12 marathon.
Wow.
And then Nathan Earl, I got as my cyclist. So not related, two different spellings of the last name.
Oh,
But Nathan's been a really big part of this whole thing. So got him in to ride. He's a professional cyclist. At the time, he was racing for a team in the JCL, for Team Ukio, but now he's racing for Canaan this year. And so got him in riding. We were fastest team, fastest overall time. I think I had the fastest swim by a minute. What's amazing is that Nathan had just come out from having like a full body reconstructive surgery. I think in September the year before, he got hit by a truck
oh
while
wow.
training. Yeah, and like just shattered all the bones in his body. So he came back just for this event in February. And he did it on a road bike and still rode like 2:13 on a half Ironman course with 1,300 meters of climbing.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I think his average power was 340 watts, and that's with 3 weeks of training under him.
Not bad.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where it started for me with triathlon. Nathan said, "Look, if you ever want to start doing triathlon or start riding more, just flick me a message and I'll take you under my wing." And that's kind of how it's been since then. And then, of course, I gave myself a time frame. I said, "Well, if I'm not on an Australian team by the end of 2024, if I'm not on an Australian team for open water by 2024 open water nationals, I'll switch to triathlon." And yeah, it's exactly what happened.
Huh. And so then how does Cam Wurf come into the picture?
Oh, that's a really interesting story, actually. So I did the 200 100s in December, so between Christmas and New Year's.
Uh-huh.
And one of my friends, Will Clark, he used to ride for Trek Segafredo. He sent a screenshot of that session to Richie Port. And so I think he's numerous times been in the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. I think he's finished third or second in the Tour
It's
de
like
France.
you just know all these like professional, it's like he's listed on. I wouldn't be surprised if he told me like you're going on around with Pogacar next weekend. Honestly,
Yeah.
this honest. This is crazy.
Yeah, so he sent that ride to Richie Port. And then Richie sent a photo of that to Cameron and said, "Hey, look at this. Some Tasmanian guys just out here doing random stuff." And Cameron's like, "That random stuff is the stuff that I love." So he started following me on Strava. And luckily, like right at that time, he was actually in Hobart. So he was spending 3 weeks in Hobart just seeing family. Had to try and do some stuff in Hobart. And I sent him a message on Strava saying, "Hey, you could do with some improvement in your swimming. I saw you at the pool. You want to come swim with us?" And he was like, "Dude, I'd be honored. This is great." Um, we'll talk about it on Sunday because there was a local race on Sunday, just a half, not half, an Olympic distance race. And so put up with him there. He started training with us. I started riding with him, and yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Huh. That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right, now, I do want to get back to Kona, but we've mentioned this like 3 times already, and I want to talk about it. The 200 by 100. How did that come about? Talk me through the workout. I want to know like the fueling you took. Yeah, why you did it, how you thought of it, and how has that impacted? Has that impacted your training? The mental mindset going into it.
Mm.
Just give me the. I want to hear about that.
All right, so we'll just bang this one out. What was it? Just before Christmas, I said to my coach I wanted to do something big for New Year's. He said we'll do 100 hundreds and 115. I told him that was a load of something that I didn't want to do. I said I want to do something bigger. Everyone does 100 hundreds. So I think like Haley Chura does 100 hundreds. Seen Lucy Charles Barclay do 100 hundreds. See all these kinds of people do 100 100s for New Year's. So I was like, well, it's just not cool anymore. We've got to step it up. So yeah, day after like Boxing Day here, I said to my coach, I want to do 23 1000s to see out 2023. And he was like, no, dude, that's too much. And I was like, all right, well, I'll do a better deal, 200 100s on 115. He was
And
like,
this is
cool.
long course meters, correct?
Yeah,
Or
all long.
yeah. Oh, okay. So for
Yeah.
those listening in America, the conversion from long course meters to short course yards is around 10 seconds per 100. So that would be if you're swimming in a 25-yard pool, leaving on a 105 base.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I told him that's what I wanted to do. He said, sure. So I jumped in the water at 5:30 on a Wednesday morning, and got out of the pool 4 hours and 5 minutes later.
I just can't see because my 100 PR I think is like a 105.
Yeah.
So it's like that's just yeah, no, that's and this you did it by yourself?
Yeah, all by myself. I had a lane mostly to myself. And so as a squad train, we had an hour and a half or 2 hours. I just took up one of those lanes by myself. And then once that training finished, it was pretty much open to the public lanes. I had a few people come and go, like some people that were down for Christmas that were swimmers would jump in, and I'd swim around them and they'd talk to me every time I stopped. But yeah, it was just a whole lot of hundreds.
And no
As far as
no paddles, nothing.
no, just hundreds. There's nothing to mix it up. Just straight. I start at 0 and I get out at 200. There's nothing more complicated about it.
And now
Um,
yeah, keep going.
yeah, and so on the nutrition side of things, I had like a 500 ml bottle with 80 grams of carbohydrates in it, and I had two gels, one with I don't know 30 grams and another with 30 grams of caffeine, and that was the whole swim.
No, and what were you coming in on? What was like the average?
Yeah, I was holding mostly 108s, 109s. So we were targeting 20K at 10K pace.
So you had about 5 to 6 seconds rest.
Yeah.
Wow. And now was that like did you get out of the pool saying that was hard or was it like okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my shoulders were gone at 16K. I had like a 5 or 6K moment where I was just like, yeah, I'm getting out after this one, and I do another one. Oh, I'm getting out of this one. I do another one, getting out of this one, and yeah, it got pretty messy. My swimming probably fell away a little bit, but yeah, I just had to keep holding times.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
What was the was there a part in the swim where you kind of because like for me when I'm doing, on a smaller scale, 2100, something like that. Usually once I hit like number 16, 17, then it's like, okay, this is easy. But like the first, the first few are relatively easy. Was there any like did you have a turning point, like a mindset shift, or was it all kind of like, this sucks the entire time? Was there any
Um,
was there any time where was there any point in the swim where like you regretted the decision or thought that you were gonna quit?
Oh, look, absolutely. In something like that, 4 hours of just always being on.
Yeah.
Um, it is hard to want to stay there. I just, it's one of those things you just have to accept the fact that you're going to be in the water for 4 hours and 5 minutes or 4 hours and 10 minutes, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I said, well, I've told all these people I'm going to do it. There's no point not doing it now.
Wow. Now, have you been able to use that kind of same mindset in like, biking or running? Because that's kind of how I think of actually like bike workouts,
Mm,
Yeah, I have a really hard bike workout, but I know in 4 hours I'm gonna be done with this, something like that. So do you use that same?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like I'll do some rides. So yesterday I was actually out on the bike with Nathan L. He had 6 hours. I had 4 hours planned. Just because I was swimming in the morning, had to come home, and he already left. So I missed out on the fun part where it's yeah, the first part of that ride is absolutely cooked. It's like you can spend an hour and 20 minutes in that section of the ride, and you're getting 1,800 meters of climbing. Um, so I missed out on that part. I met him at the racetrack down about 10K from my home. We rode to a place called Hamilton or Meadowbank, so it's all fairly rolling. And then when we turned, we actually had a headwind, so it was really hot out in the middle. It was like 30 degrees Celsius and climbing up 15% gradients. And then you come back into a headwind, and we were like pushing 300 watts, just getting down real low, on the hoods, like Tade and all those guys. And you just got to, not look at the watch and just accept that you're going to be there, whether you like it or not, especially when there's someone else there with you. You can't really just say, all right, I'm tapping out now. You've just got to stay there. So, yeah, I think doing a set like the 200, 100s, it plays a big role in how you keep yourself accountable in everything else.
Oh, 100%. Now I have two more questions on that. One, how did you keep track of all the 100s? Because I assume you didn't do it with a watch.
Yeah, no watch. Working on 115, it makes counting really easy.
That's true.
So, yeah, we've got like this big electronic clock. It's actually like a whole scoreboard. And so it's got like just a time ticking away. So say I started at 5:30, I know that's working on 115. I'm
Yeah.
going through.
You know what time you got to get out?
Yeah, I know exactly what time I got to get out. So
Yeah. Huh. Okay. And then my second question is, did you do something similar this past New Year's, and are you planning on doing something similar, or do you think you will do that, the 1,000 set for 2024, 2025?
So I had a few ideas. One of the ones was sent to me by Max Giuliani. So he went to the Olympics
My
for
God.
yeah. So I actually know him personally. We spent quite a few years training together when he was living down here. He moved up to Miami. I think he's with TSS Aquatic now under Richard Scarce, his coach. He went to the Olympics for the 200 free in Paris. I think he finished seventh with like a 144 200, which is insanely quick. He sent me a session. It was like 100 on two, 200 on, yeah, 100 on 2 minutes, 200 on 3 minutes, and so on. 708, 809,
Yeah.
910, up to 1,000. So he had a crack at that. And one of the things that I did notice doing that session, I tapped out at 900. I'm not as fast as what I used to be.
Uh-huh.
So my threshold speed is all the same. I can actually hold that threshold speed for longer. But as soon as we dip below that threshold speed, I start to cook quite a bit. So it didn't quite have the speed to make the 1,000 this time round, but we're gonna rejig that set and do it in April.
Okay.
So I think it should end up being a 7K set, and the average pace. Well, if you take out the first 500 meters, the average pace of the session should be like 107, and that's working on the interval.
Fast.
Yeah, and then I got on the bike. I planned to do 300K, and most people are 300K. You're probably getting 3,000 meters of climbing. My 300K well, I got 245 before I started vomiting and stopped sweating. Because I got the calculations wrong. I thought for the whole ride I was going to be 3,000 meters of climbing, but I got to 240k and I'd done 5,000 meters. So
Holy, that's
yeah,
15,000 feet. Holy cow.
yeah, and most of that is in this 50k section as well. So it's like I think so I rode from my house to Strathgordon Dam, which is like it's this huge dam. I think someone's got the world record actually off it for throwing a basketball into a basketball hoop. Uh, yeah, some guys. It was like this big thing years ago. You could probably Google it, like basketball throw off Strathgordon Dam. It was nuts. But yeah, so rode down there and then coming back. There's like a 50k segment where you're getting 2,300 meters of climbing in just 50 kilometers. It's nuts. But yeah, my Garmin Connect didn't calculate that right. I thought I was going to be in for a much easier day.
Yeah, no, I find that elevation can sometimes get messed up as well. But I wanted to ask you really quick, have you ever met or do you know Michael Phelps at all by any chance?
I do know of Michael Phelps. I've never met or spoken to him. Yeah, I don't know many people outside of Australia.
Okay. But I guess kind of going back to Kona and Cam Wurf, what has been the best piece of advice, if anything, that Cam or actually any of the athletes that the Olympic medalist athletes or any of the top pros athletes that have given you, would you say? Has there been like one piece of advice or something that really stuck out to you? It can be swimming,
Yeah,
anything, honestly.
yeah. I'll give you one from each. So Nathan Earl has been a really big person with structuring my training and everything, and something from him has been
Coach
how.
or just
Pardon?
is he a coach, like one of your coaches, or
No, he's just a guy that I train with
okay,
who
yeah.
knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so he actually used to race for Team Sky with Richie Ports and Chris Froome. So he did some training on his Rail Premier Tech as well. So he's been really hounding the recovery side of things and how important recovery is. So that's been one of the really big things that I've taken into training for the last 4 months is actually just trying to make sure that I balance everything right, get my recovery right. Because I think, the actual training you do is half of the work. The other half is actually how you adapt to that training.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, from Nathan, that's been really, really good. Max Giuliani he's very black and white, knows what he wants and knows when he wants to get it. Hence why he's one of those guys at the Olympics. And so something from him, actually, I was speaking to him probably about 6 months ago is when he said it. We were talking about stuff at the Olympics and he just said, right, I know that I want to line up at any given race, at any given stage of my training. I want to look at the other 7 guys there and think, I can beat you, I can beat you, I can beat you. Not because I'm faster, but because I know that I've trained harder than anyone else and I know that I want it more than anyone else. If someone wants it more than me, they're lying.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he's got a lot in him. I wouldn't be surprised if going back to LA in 2028, he's winning gold medals in the 200 free. Because he's just, yeah, if he wants something, he'll get it and he'll do anything possible to get it. And then, yeah, so Wurfy, especially in Kona, one of the big things he was preaching is not to be all, hiding in this whole, I'm a Tasmanian, I'm a swimmer, do I belong here? You've qualified, you belong here, enjoy the experience, and make sure that you're being open to everything, open to learning, open to growing, open to feedback, and seeing every new opportunity with an open mind.
That's great. And that actually kind of leads into one of the next questions I had for you. That helps. I was going to ask about like your mental and physical preparations for Kona. So obviously, I bet that helped with, the mental side of things, just being, and that's also something that I tried to do as well in Kona was, yeah, really just embrace the experience and
Mm.
realize that this truly is something special, and it doesn't really matter too much. Like obviously the race itself matters, but just the entire experience as a whole, and really take it in and
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. I think like what Cameron was saying to me is Kona is a whole different experience, especially if you're racing there for your first time. It
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's paramount to actually go into it with an open mind and use it as learning, take in the experience. From the whole mental side of things, it was great having Cameron there. He was actually able to provide a lot of reassurance. So I was there. I was quite worried about the run, and he said, "Dude, don't worry about the run. You're here to swim, and then you can make it through the rest of the day. If you've got that swim in you, you've got the rest of the race, and you don't need to worry. It's just like any other race. It's just a bit warm."
And how did knowing that you broke the swim course record, did that impact the rest of the race at all for you when you heard or when you found, did you know
uh,
coming out of the water that you broke it?
Coming out of the water, I didn't know for sure. I heard either 45, 43, or 46, 43. So I was like, right, I'm either in for a really great time or I've just missed it and I'm going to have a terrible race.
And what was the record before?
46:29.
So you broke it by, well, yeah, by about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I didn't actually know until I got about 50K out on course to, where is it? I want to say it's Waikoloa, but I'm not 100% sure. And that's where Talbot Cox was actually sitting.
Oh,
Yeah, he told me that I got the record, and yeah, after that I was probably for the whole bike up to Harvey. I was kind of riding on that joy from knowing that I got the record, or that relief. I was like, yeah, I've got it. I can just rip in. And then I got to Harvey, and I was like, oh, this climb's not that fun.
and then
Um,
you got to go back.
yeah, the climb at Harvey, it's like for me, it's not steep enough to call it an actual climb, but it's
Yep.
also flat enough to really drone in. So it was just a real mind bender for me, that climb at Harvey. Kauai High was great. I loved climbing Kauai High. So that's like that steep section just before you turn back onto the main highway. Um, I think I actually rode really well through there. I was riding just behind a pack of five, and I put a minute onto them on the Kauai High climb. But then obviously it flattened out and I got caught. But yeah, knowing that I got the swim course record, I think it definitely helped me through the day, especially knowing that all I had to do was finish to secure everything. It was kind of one of those things that kept me from quitting, because you would have seen me in the run. I was really struggling in the run. And so, yeah, knowing that I got the swim course record and knowing that I just needed to finish, it was certainly a good peace of mind to have.
That's great. And then can you kind of take us through? I'm not sure if you remember too much, but I don't know, a big week of training leading up to Kona, like swim, bike, all, like if you have specific sessions that you remember doing, or
Yeah,
some example.
yeah. So an example week would be like on Monday. So the shop I work at shut on Mondays, which is really good. So I do a VO2 session in the morning, which would be like 3 rounds of 7 100s on the 150 at VO2. So I'd be sitting at like 100. If I was really good, feeling really good, maybe sitting on 59s. Um, and so that's 2.1K of VO2, and then a little kick set at the end just to spice things up. General warm up at the
Uh,
front, and I'd head out and ride for say 3 hours. So coming into Kona, that 3 hours started to get harder and harder to do, simply because I was going further and further. So I
yep.
had a nice 3 hour loop, and then that 3 hour loop turned into a 2 hour 55 loop, and then a 2 hour 52 loop. And so just trying to manage that was always tricky. And then I'd go run in the afternoon. So following Wurfy's structure of front loading the week with running. So Monday was swim, ride, run. Tuesday would be swim in the morning, probably go to work and then run long Tuesday night. So I was always really scared of overdoing the running. So I'd go
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 7K Monday night, 9K Tuesday night. The running was like really dulled down. And then Wednesdays would be like a recovery swim into a bigger ride, so probably like 5 hours of riding with
Was that at
Nathan Earp.
intervals or was it like just go out and ride for 5 hours?
Yeah, no intervals, just go out and ride for 5 hours. And then Wednesday night would just be, just cruising. Then Thursday would be back in the pool, VO2 in the morning, probably at work through Thursday and then trying to run Thursday night. Then Friday, if I wasn't working, I'd be swimming either VO2 or lactate in the afternoon. And then on the bike with Nathan, again, probably just 4 hours of steady state, pushing 260, 270 watts. And then Saturday was always a hard one because I was 2 hours in the pool and we'd usually do a 4K time trial leading into Kona.
So that was like a weekly thing, like a 4K TT?
Yeah. So in the 5 weeks leading into Kona, we did a 4K time trial, then a 2K time trial, then a 4K time trial, then a 5K time trial, and then 1 week to rest on Saturday. Pardon?
Did you get faster?
No, we were just simply holding pace.
Okay.
So I think my first 4K, this is why I think the Kona swim course is actually long. My first 4K I went through in 44:30.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
that is in a pool and that's without jellyfish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's fast.
Yeah. And then I did the 2K the week after, and that was like 21, 24.
Okay.
And then, into the 5K, that was in the short course pool. I can't even remember my time for the 5K. And then, another 4K where we just set a target pace. I think we wanted to hold 108. So it's like 45:20 or 45:40. And I was like 1 second under pace. So that was good. That was Saturday mornings and then working till 2 on Saturdays and then going and running 15K Saturday afternoon. And then Sundays would either be, depending on how my next week would look, I would go either just 2 hours easy riding, like recovery, or I would do an interval session. So I think one of the ones that I really enjoyed was 3 rounds of, I think, a 10-second sprint at 700 and then 4 minutes at 310, then 10-second sprints, another 4 minutes at 330, then 10-second sprints, and 4 minutes at 350.
Oh yeah, so I've done not that exact set, but similar workouts to that. I really like that. When you come off the 10 seconds, it's almost like the 310 or whatever is almost doesn't feel easy, but compared to the 10-second sprint,
Yes.
there's that big difference, and so it makes a hard effort feel easy.
Yeah, but it's always really weird. You do that, like say you get to the back end of that set, you do your 10-second sprint, you go back down to sitting on 350, and it's like you have 5 to 7 seconds where you're like, oh, this is great, good recovery. And then you have a small period where all your oxygen just goes and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, the lactate hits.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure. Huh. And now I do have a kind of more kind of general training question. How do you fuel? How does your fueling look like for training and racing, I guess? So I guess amount of grams of carbs you've taken. Because I was shocked when you said you took so little during that 20 by 100 set.
Well, you're about to be shocked even more because when I train, so when I run, I only take in water, and that's very rarely. So if I'm on the track, then I'll have some water. If I'm just going for a long run, like even if I was doing a 20K long run, I wouldn't take any water. There's just no readily available taps or anywhere around where I run, and I can't run with a drink, or I can't hold anything when I run. It's just one of those things. I can't hold anything in my hands when I run. I hate it.
Yeah.
Running no water. Most rides, I won't take anything either. I'll have water and electrolytes in the bottles, but most rides there's no carbs. A 3-hour ride, I won't take in any carbohydrates. I'll have a caffeine gel just in case. It's called my Justin gel, just in case. But But yeah, 3 hours, there'll be nothing. If I'm doing a 4 hour ride, then I might have a bottle mixed with 80 grams of carbs and then the Justin gel and maybe a pack of gummy bears. And then, 5 hours, I might have an extra bar and that's it. And for swimming, yeah, I take in water if I'm thirsty and then, yeah, no carbohydrates.
And is that on purpose? Well, obviously it's on purpose, but
Yeah.
why have you decided to do this? Like, have you ever tried experimenting with higher carbs? I guess I assume does Cam train the same or
I'm not sure what Cameron does. I don't think he takes in a whole lot when he's training. But yeah, a big focus for me is just hydration and electrolytes. So I sweat a lot and I sweat a lot of salts. So
you'd like to hear this. So I got tested in Kona and
oh yeah,
I was the salt. Did you hear? I was the saltiest sweater they tested. I lose per liter of sweat. I lose, I think, just under 2,000 milligrams of sodium.
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That makes me feel a lot better. There's actually
Yeah,
I
so
have
I'm usually downing 2 to 2,500 milligrams of sodium an hour when I'm training hard and I'm
wow,
sweating.
wow. That is a lot. There's a photo of me when I was racing in Cairns. I was coming off the bike, and Cairns is pretty hot, and they have all these big water bottles in the aid station. So I was pouring water over myself. You can see where the water's gone because I've got like a cross section of where there's no salt, and then like I got 4 spots of just salt all through my suit. So the black parts on my legs are actually turned white from the salt that I've lost. It was crazy.
I'm trying
But
to find a picture right now. I'm not sure if I have it, but there's a photo of me um at Kona on the bike and my entire tri suit is just white from salt. If I can
yeah,
find it, I'll send it to you. But yeah, no, it's I'm a salty guy.
no, absolutely. I'll probably be able to find that picture of me with oh yeah. So where are we? Yeah, that's
Oh
my
wow, yeah. For those
back.
of you that are just listening to this, you can also watch it on YouTube. And yeah, Sam showing the picture. There's a big cross on your behind.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Um,
Uh
yeah. So yeah, one of my big things is mostly hydration, and replacing sodium and electrolytes and things like that more than carbohydrates. I seem to be able to actually hold together quite well with limited carbohydrates. So I think that's really good. But when I'm racing, it's completely different. So my stomach can actually handle quite a lot. Um, Coming from open water, we learned how to scull 300 ml of water with 100 grams of carbohydrates in it in the matter of seconds.
oh
Um, yeah, it's so the whole feeding thing for open water is they hold out a cup on a pole, and
yeah,
that's
and then
just
you like do backstroke and then
yeah,
yeah. I've seen that.
yeah. So we experimented with a few things, and it's like you're taking in 100 grams of carbohydrates in 300 ml of water, so it's like syrup at that stage.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so if you can stomach that in open water while racing, then you can do anything. So in Kona, on the bike, I had 3 bottles, each with 180 grams of carbs in them in 1 liter.
Wow, that's completely opposite from training.
Yeah. And then in each bottle, I had a shot of the ketone IQ. And then in the top tube, I had a bar because I always have to take in something solid. I can't rely
Yeah.
just on oils and fluids. So I had a bar. I had one of the Coda bars, and then I think 3 gels. One of them was the SIS beta fuel with the nootropics, so a bit of caffeine in there. I took that before the climb up Kauai High, so that's probably why I went so fast up there. Um, I actually looked on the Strava segments. I think I was only like 5 seconds slower than Wurfy going up Kauai High.
Really?
Yeah. And so yeah, and then 2 of the power bar gels because they're like nice and watery, so they're really easy to get down. So yeah, I think on the bike, like I was out there for 4 hours 40, and I took in probably 140, 150 grams of carbs per hour. And then on the run, it's just a matter of whatever I can stomach.
Yeah.
So whether that gels, solids, just whatever's at the aid station. I took in a lot of Coke. Do you guys call it Coke or just cola?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I took in a fair bit of that just to try and get some caffeine into me. Yeah.
So then my question is why do you feel so much in racing?
Um, well, in racing, you're always on the limit. I I know that being a bigger guy, being able to achieve or being needing to hit high power targets, especially set myself up for the run, is
Yeah,
why I so much on the bike. Especially because the bike is so easy to take in a lot of fuel.
yeah,
Uh, and so, yeah, I've always done that. But then in training, well, one thing, nutrition's so expensive these days. You got to save it.
yeah.
um, so if the feed or aid station want to put something out, or raw want to put something out, I'll happily take an offer because nutrition is expensive. It'd be much easier if I didn't have to pay for as much. But yeah, so in training, I've always just found that I get a lot of benefit out of going with less
Yeah.
carbohydrate, more focusing on that hydration.
Interesting.
I seem to be able to. My body seems to be able to adapt to those kind of. I don't really want to say zone two because I actually dislike sticking to those whole zone sort of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I mostly ride by feel, and just like target power. So I seem to be able to stick to that 250 to 270 sort of power really well with less fueling. So I assume it's forcing my body to cope with being underfueled really well and using different fuel sources like fats and carbohydrates through the body.
Interesting. Yeah. I definitely do see some merit to that, but I do think that you may find some benefits with training, especially for harder sets, I think, when you are
Yes.
doing VO2 sets. But yeah, I'll talk to the people at Raw and see if we can get you hooked up with something.
Yeah,
So
I'd really appreciate
yeah, they choose New Zealand or Australia is so far away. But
that.
and yeah, no shipping is yeah. But we'll see. Anyway, I have two more kind of triathlon, training related questions, and then
Yep.
maybe finish us off with some advice that you have for, people that are still drowning in the pool like myself. So
Mm.
so first is you have mentioned in the past that you're working on, some of your weaknesses, kind of running, specifically. How have you kind of shifted? Have you shifted your training? How are you trying to address that?
Yeah. So what we did after Kona, I reduced my swim sessions by one. So I was doing an afternoon session every so often. I've taken that afternoon session away. And then my Wednesdays used to be quite hard, but now I've reduced my Wednesday morning swims to be quite easy and replaced with an extra run. So I
Mhm.
was doing 3 runs a week. Now I'm doing 4 runs. 2 of them are track sessions, and 2 of them on the Saturday. So yeah, Tuesday and Thursday were track sessions, and Saturday, Sunday are just out general running. So again, this is credit to Wurfy. When he was down, he was running with Jack Woodbury. So he's in grade 10, so he's 16. He raced this year at Junior World Championships for triathlon. I think he finished like inside the top 30, and he was the youngest person there by 3 years. Um, and he runs like an absolute demon. His 5K is 14:45.
Wow.
So yeah, I figured he's fast. He's obviously doing something right, so we'll go and train with his coach. And that's essentially what Cameron said. He said, you need to find a really good pathways coach, especially when you're just starting out. So yeah, running with that sort of group, they are a triathlon group. But yeah, running with that group. So I think it's like 4.5K worth of efforts for each track session. So it's not actually a whole lot, but it seems to be helping quite a bit. So I think I used to, for a sprint triathlon, which is completely unrelated to Ironman, but for a sprint triathlon, when I first started, I was running like a 22-minute 5K,
Uh-huh.
and that was off like riding 31 minutes. And now for a 20K ride, I'm going under 28 minutes and then running like an 18 flat 5K.
Oh wow, so you really improved.
Yeah, so it's actually really helped. And then having a Saturday run and Sunday runs at the end, I'll mix them around depending on what works. But I'll either be like a Saturday might be targeting marathon pacing, so 2K warm up, and then a set distance at target marathon pace, and then a little cool down. And then the next day, or I might swap it around, the day before might be just 17K of easy running.
There we go. So that's yeah, and I do think, especially with running, obviously the same as swimming and I think biking, it really does just come down to consistency and being able to put in more volume.
Yes.
So especially, working with, or training with those, people that are running sub 15-minute 5Ks, that's definitely gonna help with that, I think. So
Yes.
that's great to hear. And now kind of it moving on or along with that, what is your kind of long-term goal in triathlon? Do you see yourself, looking or trying to earn a pro card? I mean, you have the swim course record in Kona. What's next?
Yeah, I've been asked this question quite a lot, and it all boils down to so next year I'll target racing Ironman Worlds in Nice. So we'll try and finish probably top 10, top five there. Because obviously it is a long term process. I'm not going to get good overnight. And so swim at the front, try and ride on the front as long as possible, and see how much I can hold on the run, and then come back to Kona the year after and try and win that age group. So I think it's like 18 to 24, win that age group, and then look into going professional. I don't really want to rush anything. I think I've seen a lot of guys in Australia actually they've rushed going professional, and so then they're just kind of sitting off the back and not being at the front of the race. Because the front of the race, one is where it's fastest. It's always going to be fastest in front of the race, and two, the front of the race is where you can learn the most. So luckily with my swimming, I'm in that position where I can be at the front of the race. So I think building up that speed. I think if you want to go professional, you've got to be consistently riding 420 or faster on the bike for Ironman, and you've got to be running consistently under 3 hours if you want to be a good professional athlete. And so that's what we're going to wait for. We're going to try and improve slowly, and then try and go professional late 2026. That's certainly the goal. And yeah, try and learn from the whole process at the start of a professional career.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you really are enjoying the triathlon and you want to do that long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that I can see you in the
Oh,
professional field.
definitely.
That'd be great.
Well, yeah, that would be great. I haven't qualified yet, but the plan is to be at Nice as well, so we'll definitely have to connect there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll catch up over there.
Oh yeah, for sure. But now moving on to kind of the last bit, any advice? So really, first things first, I guess if you have kind of top three tips to improve, it doesn't have to be top three, but yeah, just a few tips just to improve swim in general. Do you have any? Is it, focus on, because I have kind of seen that there's two kind of camps in swimming. There's the one where they say, technique, technique, technique. There's no point in trying to swim fast if you didn't have technique. And then kind of the exact opposites, where it's like you need to be hitting, you need to be swimming at threshold if you want to get faster. So, do your drills here and there, but your full sessions shouldn't be drill focused. You really don't want to be swimming slow too often. It really is, doing the 20 by 100 best effort, hard 50s, hard 25s, swimming fast and swimming with good form, not really doing too many drills. Those are kind of like the two kind of camps or ideologies I've seen within swim training. And I guess, yeah, coming from with your background, have you seen the same? And if so, kind of what are some tips that you have?
Yeah, so my whole pathway with swimming is I first learnt the technique, and then we built the speed onto that. But with my training right now, we're kind of between those two camps. So we do our hard efforts with a lot of focus on technique through those hard efforts.
Okay.
Is essentially you're trying to manipulate the water to move fast through it. You're not trying to force your way through the water. So one of my big tips that I've even been applying to myself is actually keep your bloody head down. Yeah. So I see a lot of people, they're actually looking quite forwards. So,
Uh-huh.
your body position's like this, and then you're actually looking that way instead of down.
Right.
And so then your hips just drop,
Yep.
and because your hips drop, it means that you've got that extra bit of resistance. It's pretty much like, someone's on a time trial bike, but their extension is, that high off the base bar, and they're just looking with their head straight up, and their knees side. That's the way I'd describe it. Yeah, you got to keep your head down. I've actually been taking that into account a lot recently. So coming back from Kona, I got into the habit of looking forwards in the water. Um, I had one session doing 3200s at threshold. The first 5, I had my head looking forwards, and I was swimming like 218s. And then my coach just threw a
Wait,
kickboard,
3,500. What was the set again?
3200s.
Okay. Oh, oh, wow. I thought you said
Yeah,
3,100s. 32
no,
a bit harder.
yeah. So 6 kilometers at threshold. Working mostly on 230, 235. And so, yeah, first 5, I had my head up. Coach threw a kickboard at me and said, dude, get your head down. And so that's what we did. And I dropped from 218s to 213s, like just instant. So, yeah, my biggest tip is to get your head down. The second one is absolutely consistency. So biking and running are a little bit different. Running, you want to be consistent to avoid injuries. Riding, you need to be consistent to build up that aerobic base. Swimming, you need to be consistent because if you do take, say, a 3-day gap, you will forget how to swim.
Yeah.
Um, I've taken countless breaks off swimming, whether it be from a long weekend, you just come back and you feel like you're sitting low in the water, your arms feel all noodly. You take a 2-week gap, and then it takes you 6 weeks to get back to where you were. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, consistency is one of the big things. That's why swimmers actually train so much. So you might have, soccer players might do, I'm just taking a guess, 6 sessions a week. Some other sports might do 5 sessions a week. Swimmers, to be a good swimmer, you've got to be doing 10 or 11 sessions a week. And that's simply because by taking a big gap between sessions, you lose all that feel of the water. And so, yeah, consistency is absolutely key. If you can avoid having big gaps out of the water, that is paramount. And then, yeah, so a third thing, I would say, going back to that whole 2 camps of thoughts, doing technique and doing hard work, it is a bit of a minefield. I think having that technique base first is really important, especially later down the track in injury prevention. You see a lot of people doing hard efforts with poor technique, especially poor shoulder recovery. That's a fast track way to get a shoulder injury if you're not careful about it. And so, yeah, I think I personally would target technique over hard training, but it's not like long running where you can afford to go out and just do long, easy runs. You do have to work the intensity.
Definitely. Now, a little bit, I guess, different, but also tips for transitioning from pool to open water, or honestly, if you want to do like a big challenge, like, the 2100, something like that. Do you have any advice for either open water or just big challenges in general?
Yeah, so going into open water, especially if you're used to only pool swimming, going into the open water, it is a completely different environment. There's no black line, there's no lane ropes. You're in an You've gone from an unstable environment in the water to being in an unpredictable environment to open water, where there are waves, water's moving different directions. Um, I think going into that, the biggest challenge is actually just swimming in a straight line and understanding what's going on. So if you can always go into an open water event or a training session knowing what the water's going to be doing, I think that's majorly important. A lot of people, they might be doing river swim and the tide's coming in, but they're swimming in the middle of the river. So that you're swimming into
Yeah.
the fastest moving water that's pushing you backwards. So I'm sure a lot of people know if the tide's going out, you sit in the middle. If the tide's coming in, then you sit off to the side because that's where the slower water is. So yeah, I think going into open water, knowing what the water's doing is important, and then the whole mental side of things is, open water is obviously a lot longer, and there's no turns, no way to actually know for sure where you are. So going into longer things like, say, that 200 hundreds,
Yeah.
you just have to acknowledge that you are going to be out there for a long time, and once you can accept that fact, it's so much easier. So, say you're doing a 250-kilometer ride, once you can acknowledge and accept the fact that you're going to be out there for X amount of hours,
Yeah.
it feels like there's such a big weight lifted off your shoulders, and you just enjoy it so much more.
It's funny you say that. So that's actually how I approach every Ironman I do. The way because I know it's going to be a long day, it's going to hurt, but
Yes.
what I say to myself is, by the time I go to bed tonight, it's going to be over with, and that just makes
Oh,
everything
absolutely.
so much better. It's like I can do it, like, like one day it can go by so fast. So I know, but by the time I go to sleep, this will be done. And it, like
Yeah.
you said, it just takes the weight off your shoulders. It does make it much more approachable and just easier.
Yeah. So, like, say you're going out for an 11-hour day doing an Ironman, you start at 7, you finish at 6. It's the same as every other day. It's the same amount of hours as every other day. You're just doing something for that 11 hours.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I think as soon as you can understand that whole process, it just becomes so much easier. And it's really funny. I actually use that at work when I'm at work for like an 8 hour day.
What do you
Yeah.
do for work?
I work at a bike shop in Bellerive, so selling all the bikes and servicing bikes. But yeah, it's like I'm in for an 8 hour day. It's like, oh, this isn't even an Ironman, it's easy.
There you go. One man's work day is another man's Iron Man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that's kind of all the training related questions I had. I did want to wrap up with a few kind of more lighthearted questions, but before I do you have any questions for me or anything else you want to say?
um, Actually, one question that has been on my mind. I've been watching your Instagram stories, and I'm very intrigued by these sauna battles. Uh,
Aha, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I've been following along closely. It's very good. One of the questions I do have with sauna is when is the most appropriate time to be in the sauna, and what is the purpose of the sauna?
Yeah, so a lot of people have been asking me that, and I did want to address. That's one of the things I am going to be talking about more on this podcast,
Mm,
or sauna battles in general. But so the first part of your question, when is the most appropriate time? They say for performance, so it kind of depends on what you're looking for. They say for sleep
yeah.
activity, that there are benefits to sleeping, and they say you want to do that, I think, about an hour before bed. And the reason why is actually when you go into the sauna, your core temperature initially actually drops. The reason
Oh
being
wow.
because your body's trying to fight the response of it being in a hot environment. So it actually initially drops your core body temperature. Now, if you sit in there for too long, obviously, eventually it will rise. But they
Yeah.
say, if you can do like 15 minutes or so before you go to bed, that can actually help with sleep because, when you go to bed, your core body temperature has to drop. So if you're looking for sleep, then that's when I would do it. For performance benefits, I think that doing it after they say, 15 to 20 minutes right after a session, it can be most helpful. Personally, for me, I do it after the swim. The biggest
Yeah.
reason being that's when it's easiest for me to access. I come the
Absolutely.
sauna's right there. Now, I will actually sometimes and do it after a run. I have a treadmill in my
Mm,
basement, so if I run at home, I usually won't do it. But just because of the time it takes to drive to the gym. But if I do a run at the gym, like for example, like on a Saturday on big training days, I will usually run at the gym's treadmill just because it is nicer and I like their treadmills more. And so
yeah.
I'll do it then. So I'll do the sauna then. Now you be
Gotcha.
careful, however, because doing the sauna you can overcook yourself a little bit. And so if I have a swim and then a hard ride after it, I either won't do the sauna that day because I don't want to be cooked after or before the bike, or I'll wait till after all my training is done for the day and then I'll go do the sauna. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's kind of when I do the sauna. Now, why I do the sauna? No, there is part of it because I do think there's something to be said about training the heat. They say, heat training is kind of like the poor man's altitude. But honestly,
Absolutely.
you're going to get more adaptations from actually training in the heat. So wearing, clothes and whatnot. I do the sauna mainly just because I like it. It's fun. I meet
Yeah.
you can see on my the stories and whatnot, the sauna battles. I have a great time in there. I'm always talking to people. I run into, I make new friends. It's always amazing what you hear in the sauna. Honestly, the story, yeah, it's a great time. And I actually have a mini sauna at my house. It's like a little chair tent that heats up, and
Yeah.
I've used that a few times, and I think I do get hot and sweaty in there, but honestly, it's not the same. And like I've thought about investing in like an actual at-home wood burning sauna,
Mm.
but the thing is, like, I really like the social aspect of the sauna. Yeah, I don't think I'd use the sauna at my house that often, just because I like going to the gym and talking with everyone there. So that's
Yeah,
actually the
absolutely.
biggest reason why I use it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because like I've been meaning to go into the sauna, but I've just got no idea what I'm
Yeah.
doing with the sauna. So I figured the king of sauna battles would probably be the
Yeah.
best to ask.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I do it primarily for fun. And then yeah, so then people like you ask me about it, so it's always a good
Yeah,
conversation starter.
that's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I had another question, but it's just flown off me.
All right, now to finish off, I thought I'd ask a few more lighthearted questions. So one of my questions was actually if you have any funny story, you train with all these professionals. If you have any funny story either with Cam or yeah, anyone that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so in Kona, I did my first session at the pool. I mean, most of the training was actually in Cameron's pool at his house, but I did one session at the pool. We wanted to do, my swim coach was there. We wanted to do a lactate session. So 875s in the short course pool, which was so weird to me. All, all
But so
the,
real quickly, do you think that, and I think I already know what you're going to say, but do you think that swimming in like long course meters will make you a much better swimmer than swimming short course yards?
absolutely.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that, but confirmed.
Straight,
Yeah.
without a doubt, absolutely. I can't imagine, I could not imagine being a long course athlete and swimming in a short course pool, especially a short course yard pool. Like there's just so many tumble turns. You're spending less time on top of the water actually swimming. And by doing the turns, you get more rest time at each wall. So yeah, personally, I don't think I could ever train in a short course yard pool. I did it for a week, and that was me done. But yeah, so I rocked up to the Kona Aquatic Centre, and all the lanes were pretty well packed. So um, I I tried to find a lane. I think there was a lane with two guys in there, but they were swimming side by side. So one on the right side, one on the left side. And one of the guys had a really expensive looking camera. So they're obviously doing some sort of filming in there for someone. Old mate had a Red Bull hat and then like a Red Bull swim cap. And then the other guy was just like swimming without a cap. And I couldn't tell who either of them were. So I tapped the guy with the camera. And there was another guy there.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh, are these guys fast swimmers?" With, because I don't really want to get into a lane where I'm just overtaking people. Are these guys fast swimmers? And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, they're very fast. They're very fast. Professional athlete. They're very fast." And I was like, "Oh great. Do you reckon I could just jump in with these guys?" I shouldn't be in their way. It's just the other lanes are pretty packed, and this has got two lanes or two people in the lane. He was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't mind." Just tapped them on the feet. So I tapped one of them, and I was like, "Oh, can I just like jump in with you guys? Do you mind like sharing a lane with three people instead of two?" And they're like, "Oh, yep." So jump in. I do my warm up, and I still can't figure out who the other guy was. But the guy in the Red Bull cap was Daniel Baker. So I jumped in with him, and
So I thought it was gonna be Christian and Gustav. That's what I thought it was gonna be.
well, no, it was really funny actually. They were in the lane next to us.
Even better. Oh man.
Yeah. And so they were wearing the DeBoer swim skin in their lane doing some testing or something. And yeah, I jumped in with Daniel and this other guy. And so I'm like going around them, and I did like a 1200 meter or 1200 yard warm up, sorry. And Daniel stops at the wall as I'm there, and he's like, "Are you the guy that beat all the pros at the practice swim?" I was like, yeah, yeah, that's me." He's like, "Oh, you're gonna go for the swim course record? That's so cool!" And he's like talking to me all this stuff. I do a couple 100 meters more, and then Alex from De Boer, he comes over and he's like, "Oh, you want to test our swim skin? It's the fastest in the world." And I admit I was probably a bit cocky at the time, but the first thing that came to my head when he said that, Daniel was there and all these cameras were there and everything, and I said, "Oh, well, it's probably not the fastest in the world because I wasn't wearing it on Sunday."
No. That's hilarious.
Yeah, looking back,
What did he
so
say to that?
bad. But to say something like that with like such confidence is just
Yeah.
to look at the way they looked at me after that was just like, oh, it was so funny.
What did Alex say to that?
He didn't say anything.
You walked away.
Yeah.
Has he reached? Has he reached out after?
No, I've been offered something from Orca, and obviously while I was over there, Rocket Science Sports looked after me really well, and that's what I actually really like their swim skin because it feels so much like the open water suits that I'm used to wearing, and it just like the material actually it doesn't get wet at all. Like I did a swim session in it, and I got out of the water, and the suit was still dry.
Oh wow.
Uh, Yeah, so Marcin actually does a really good job with a lot of his swimwear, and I think the wetsuit. I haven't got the wetsuit yet, but their wetsuit. Like he sent me a video, and your normal Yamamoto neoprene. He put his phone on it, and it sunk in the water. But then for the foam that they use, or not the foam, the neoprene that they use, he put something the same size sheet of neoprene, put his phone on it, and it actually holds his phone up on the top of the water.
Huh.
So yeah, really cool, really good with the rocket science stuff there. But yeah, I haven't heard anything back from either of those guys.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah, Kona certainly had its moments, and then out on the bike, it was actually really cool. Um, you'd be familiar with Patrick Lang?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard the name.
So Wurfy and I had just come back from a ride, and we stopped off at the energy lab, and obviously Cameron gapped me. He was doing like 330 watts, so I was sitting on 300, so he just gapped me. And as I'm riding to the energy lab, I see this Canyon van just like speeding up and then ducking into all these side streets as I'm going past. And I'm like, oh, what are they? There's obviously someone coming. And so I pull into the energy lab, and the Canyon van follows me into the energy lab. And I pull up at Cameron's van with him and his soigneur, Marco. Marco's like sick. Marco's the coolest guy ever. If you get a chance, look him up on Instagram. It's Marco Zalo. I think it's Marco DZALO. He's just an insane guy. Best soigneur I've ever just in the world. He's great. But yeah, so pull into there, we're downing all the fluids and stuff. Cam's about to go for a run. Patrick comes in. There's Patrick Lang is who the Canyon car was waiting for. So he comes in and starts talking anyway. They're like, I don't know, 15 meters across the road. And these guys, like just random athletes, they come over and they're like, oh, you're Cameron Wurf. Can we get a photo? And Cameron's like, yeah, sure, we'll have a photo. And then Patrick comes over and they're like, do you want a photo with me? And the guy's just like, oh, I don't know, we're okay. So Cameron starts just like mouthing off. Yeah. Cameron starts mouthing off. He's like, yeah, we're actually likable. Us Australians, people like it. And there was like just so much banter going back and forth. And then Patrick's like, yes, but I'm the one with the championships. I've done this. And then Cameron's taking the piss. He's like, oh, Patrick, do you want a hug and make you feel better because no one likes you?
That's too funny.
It was so funny.
Cam's such a funny guy. I met him actually, so I met him in person at a Walmart at Ironman Florida last year, 2020.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I saw him in the Walmart. We were both at Walmart. I walked up to him, started talking. He's such a nice guy.
Oh, he can talk for ages as well.
Yeah.
And he's just got a good sense of humor. I remember in January last year, I was actually really sick early January. I was like, it must have been gastro or something, but I didn't quite know. I rocked up to training, pulled my clothes off to get in the water, had my bathers on, and then I just, instead of getting in, I just spent 40 minutes in the bathroom. And so I got out, got changed again, went to leave. Cameron had just come in the door, and so I'm there thinking I'm about to spew, I'm about to prove myself, and then I was talking to Cameron for about 40 minutes. So I was like, I need to go, I need to go, I need to go, and then Cameron sharing all this knowledge. It's like I need to go, but I want to stay, but I need to go. We're like talking outside the pool for 40 minutes, and yeah, that was the hardest 40 minutes of my life, I reckon.
A great guy. All right, so I think I got just one more. Then we'll wrap it up. I really appreciate taking the time, but to finish off this spot, oh, I guess two more. So one is, um, besides Kona, is there any other bucket race that you have? Obviously, like besides like world championship races in
Mm.
general, like like Challenge
Uh,
Roth or anything like that that you really want to do.
well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. 2026, I'd like to try and line up for Challenge Roth. Will Clark and I will try and do that one together. We go really well with racing together. So we'll race. We'll actually travel together and stay together in New Zealand. But yeah, we're super keen to go out to Europe and do Challenge Roth in 2026. I've always really wanted to do 70.3 St. George, but unfortunately, it looks
Yeah,
like
that's
this is the last year, so I'll miss out. But yeah, that's a race I've always wanted to do. The course looks amazing.
a great
Uh,
course.
yeah, I'm trying to think. Um, yeah, there's no other ones that have really stood out other than St. George and obviously Roth. But yeah,
Hmm. And then I guess to wrap it up, what's your favorite, what's your favorite after a hard training session, since you're not feeling too much during with carbs and whatnot. I assume you're pretty hungry. What's your kind of big post training session or post race meal that your like favorite way to celebrate?
oh, after training, so say I come in late in the afternoon, I've got this thing with Coke. I love it, and it's not because of the taste. I really like just the way it hurts, like the way the bubbles hurt in
Fizzy,
your mouth.
the bubbles. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought about that. I love bubbly water. Exactly.
yeah,
I'm the same
yeah.
way.
So it's like
Same
the way
way.
it feels when you drink it, and so we've always got Coke stashed out the back for like as soon as I'm back from training, I'm just straight to the fridge for a can of Coke. So I'll have one of those, and then my mum actually makes this really good. I'm still living with my parents. I'm 21.
I
Um,
am 26 or 25. I'm still with my parents, so no rush.
yeah, perfect. Um, and mum makes this really, really good chicken pasta. So it's like sun-dried tomatoes, shredded chicken, pasta, and the sauce is like a creamy cheese sauce. It is like I could just eat bowls of it for the rest of my life. It's amazing. So that's yeah, pretty much my go-to: a can of Coke and chicken pasta.
There you go. I can't think of a better way to wrap it up.
No,
Uh,
it's great.
Thanks again, Sam. I really appreciate
No,
coming on.
it's been great.
Yeah, no, you did most of the talking, so thank you. And yeah, much anything else you want to say? Any questions? Any comments? Anything else?
One of my friends actually sent me a message, but I think it was more meant for me than the. What do you think? Yeah, it was more meant for me. I asked him. I was like, "Do you have any questions? I'm on a podcast.
Oh yeah.
This is your one shot to get something out." But I think he just asked me a question more than the podcast. So um, I don't know. I think what he's kind of got is how can you balance running well with little volume? Like, do you just go? Would it be better to go for shorter, easier runs, or if you're going less volume, would you go harder runs? Um, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I guess I mean it kind of depends, I think, on what you're training for. If you got an Olympic distance or a shorter distance, then I think, doing the short runs is fine, and that's a great way to kind of help limit injury risk. But
Mm,
I mean, if you're training for an Ironman and you can only run, 30K a week, then obviously one of those you're not going to do too well if all your runs are 5Ks. You definitely
yeah.
you're going to need to get some longer runs in, otherwise you're going to walk the back half of the marathon. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, so I think it does depend on kind of like what you're training for, but like you with swimming or like with anything, honestly, a more volume, I think if as long as you can handle it to a certain degree is definitely going to be better. So if you can stay healthy, then your best bet is going to be definitely not necessarily even increasing like the hard workouts. Honestly, I think you can get as fast as you can with, 1 to 2, maybe 2 hard sessions a week. It's definitely not like swimming where you need to be swimming hard
Mm.
that often. But if you can just increase the easy volume, so you're hitting, higher, more runs, and longer runs, then I think that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I appreciate that. That's good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, yeah, that's gonna do it. Thanks again. We'll definitely have to get another go. I got more questions I could keep asking, but we'll definitely have to do another one in the future. And yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
touch, and then once we're in Nice.
Yes, we'll have to catch up in Nice. We'll have a good chat.
All right. Well, thanks again to Sam, and thanks to everyone listening. If you guys have any questions or want to reach out, well, let me know. I'll make sure to have Sam's Instagram. Do you have Strava?
Yeah, I've got Strava.
Okay, yeah, Sam's Instagram, Strava, all that listed down below. So make sure to go give him a follow and yeah, keep an eye out for it. Do you have any more I guess you mentioned that one the 100, 200, 300 set they're going to be doing.
Mm.
But any
Um, yeah, no, nothing big planned as of yet. We'll obviously do that increasing distance and time set in probably in April.
all right.
Uh, yeah, nothing huge between now and then. It's probably just you might have a few crazy threshold sessions of a Saturday morning. Might do some longer rides with Nathan. It's really unfair riding with Nathan because he's a really good climber and we go climbing. So he weighs like 68 kilos and yeah, and I'm 82 kilos. So he won through hand by outriding everyone on the Mount Fuji stage.
Oh,
Yeah, so I think he averaged like 420 watts for 40 minutes climbing Mount Fuji. It was nuts. So you'll probably see quite a few rides with him where we're averaging the same power because he's pedaling down the hills and I'm recovering down the hills. So.
that's hilarious. All right. Well, maybe after that set in April, we'll bring you back on and see if you can get Cam to come on. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep in touch with him. He's meant to call me at some stage soon. I've got a few questions for him, but when he's on the phone, I'll mention you.
Yeah, see if he remembers the guy from Walmart at Ironman Florida 2023.
Knowing Cameron, I'm sure he will. It'll take him 5 seconds. He's like, "Oh, I know the guy," and then he'll talk for like minutes about you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Sam, and we'll chat
No
soon.
worries. Catch you, mate. Thanks for having me.